So you've probably been trying to quit pornography for a while and nothing really works, certainly not in the medium or long term. Maybe you've tried willpower and just stopping, as the alpha male influencers will command you to do, to just stop watching pornography, like it's that easy. You may have tried NoFap and various subreddits and groups and forums. You may have tried blocker apps, almost certainly tried blocker apps. Maybe accountability services where you share your browser history and have someone else monitor you and police you. And you may have even tried therapy, but nothing is just working in terms of creating lasting freedom from pornography and transformation. And in this video, what I want to do is I want to diagnose exactly why all of those approaches fail for the vast majority of guys who are struggling with this. And I want to highlight why a lot of the providers or voices that are giving you these solutions don't really know what they're talking about, and they don't have a replicable system for actually helping guys quit porn. And I'm lastly going to finish up by pointing you in the right direction and showing you how you address all of these challenges and what a properly architected solution looks like with a program and a roadmap, and what the actual components of long-term freedom from pornography are. So without further ado, let's get into it with the first one, which is willpower. Right now, I'm sure you have seen pretty much every guy on YouTube with a significant following, and on Instagram as well, has probably at some point commanded, exhorted you to just stop watching it. The problem with just sheer willpower is that it's too variable. There are too many triggers and prompts in your life. You have internal states, internal triggers, fantasy, boredom, stress, anger, loneliness, tiredness, etc. You have external triggers, online, offline, sexual imagery just everywhere. You have false triggers, things that you think are your libido and are actually something else, that you feel some scratching, some itching, you reach for sexual activity, and in reality, you were just feeling some other kind of emotional state that you wanted to escape. And then you actually have your real libido as well to deal with. And ideally, you want to cut down to just that and just have to use your willpower on managing real libido and expressing it in healthy ways that are aligned with your values. In addition to being too variable and just being faced with so many triggers in your life, the willpower approach really fails to tap into any of the real fundamentals of behavioral science, because it really relies on you doing the right thing in the moment, but without actually giving you the skills or training to install the right patterns in your head to be able to do the right thing in the moment when called upon. It's much more like performing a tennis shot when a ball's coming at you than it is just a knowledge thing. You need to actually have routines installed in your mind in advance so that you can respond to a trigger wisely, intelligently, and actually do the right thing in the moment. Also, just relying on willpower doesn't tap into the power of various commitment devices, various forms of commitment. And if your lifestyle or your identity don't support long-term freedom, you will just find yourself eventually falling back into the trap. And lastly, you really want to just spend your willpower on managing a much smaller set of triggers, which ideally you want to get down to pretty much just your real libido and a few unavoidable things. And then really invest your willpower in things that actually move your life forward. So those things that you replace pornography with, those things that you use your extra energy to achieve and to move forward with, and those things which you invest your time and energy into. Once you're free from porn, you'll have much more, so you'll be able to easily invest more time and energy in things that really move life forward. And so that's why with Remojo, with my company, we provide a program for guys so that they're not really relying on willpower. We minimize the need for willpower, and then we invest that willpower in new rituals, new routines, new habits, new behaviors, new projects, new pursuits, engagements, relationships, etc., that actually grow and expand your life and build an identity that is free from pornography and a lifestyle that supports that. Next, let's get into NoFap and free groups or forums or communities. So there are two aspects to this. There's the NoFap thing, and then there is the community community solution. And the issue with this is that nofap is essentially sexual repression. It is an extreme response, a dysfunctional response to a dysfunctional sexuality. And what it does is it largely turns sexual desire, libido, and craving into a big problem and an internal war or struggle. And you'll find that the guys in these communities, they're always using this combative language, struggling, fighting, battling, war, etc. Well, you don't want to be fighting with yourself and at war with yourself and in internal strife forever. That's not a solution. That is a struggle. And that's not a viable path in the medium to long term, which is why a lot of these people in the nofap subreddits and other kind of similar forums are in a pretty dark place where they haven't been able to integrate their sexuality, and they're constant either overindulging or trying to overcorrect and abstain from almost everything. There are a couple of other issues with the kind of nofap approach. So one, and this includes streak counting. So in the Remojo program and when I'm coaching guys to freedom from porn, we don't really count streaks. It's worth counting the first sort of 7 to 10 days. And then after that, you just want to move on. And I'll tell you why. So the first thing is counting streaks creates the illusion of these magic milestones and this expectation perhaps that there will be, the mysteries of the universe will unlock at 30 days and 90 days and 180 and 365. And those day counts are completely arbitrary. Everyone's brain is rewiring at different rates and everyone's progressing at different paces. And it really depends on how much you change your lifestyle and your habits and your beliefs and everything else in parallel, whether you're going to experience a massive transformation from something like nofap or quitting pornography or not. But you don't want to set yourself up for expectations that are not going to be met, or you're going to be disappointed when you get there and you hit these magic milestones and suddenly everything doesn't change all of a sudden, because then you can just lose motivation, you can lose commitment, and then you can just end up back where you were watching porn again. And that actually leads me to probably one of the worst aspects of counting streaks that I think sets guys up for failure, struggle, or to just sabotage themselves, sabotage their progress. And that is that it feeds this all or nothing black and white thinking approach. And a lot of guys that are obsessed with streak counts have this black and white mindset. And what happens is when they almost inevitably slip up, because when you're trying to break a habit that's this difficult to break and that perhaps you've been engaging in for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, there are going to be some slips, setbacks, failures, relapses, whatever you want to call them along the way. And the problem with the streak count is that when you reset it, it shows a big fat 0. And this triggers or feeds into this black and white, all or nothing approach and leads to catastrophic thinking, catastrophizing. And you'll see guys posting things like, I've lost all my progress, I've destroyed my streak, I've ruined my recovery or reboot or whatever. And what this tends to do is it tends to trigger then a binge. So rather than thinking in resilient terms, trying to get back on track as soon as possible, they look at 0 and they think, oh, well, I might as well binge and just watch a load of pornography now. I'm already off track. I've already wrecked everything. So they just wallow in it and they watch a load of porn and they just wire in the habit even deeper, and they take 5 to 7 days to get back on track or even longer. And it just really slows down the process of breaking this habit and achieving long-term freedom. Finally, and then I'm going to look at blocker apps. The last problem with these kind of communities is that people are basically getting free coaching from other people that are struggling the most. So either they're getting coaching from guys that have a high streak, which is completely unverified, and these guys generally don't have any other kind of credibility. They haven't helped a lot of other people quit, or they don't have a system or a framework, etc. Or they're getting coaching and advice from guys who are deep in the struggle themselves and just actually, they're getting coaching and advice from the guys who are struggling the most. And that is the last thing that you want to do. You want to get qualified expertise from people who have a framework, an approach, a philosophy, and they really understand how to diagnose sticking points and coach someone to achieve a result. And so these communities in general are not very helpful. Next thing is blocker apps. And like almost everyone who tries to quit pornography, the first thing they think about is get a blocker app. And it's an obvious thought. It's completely understandable. I get why guys want this and they think it's super important up front. But there are like some massive issues with this. And Remojo used to be an app-based business. And we actually developed a lot of these features that guys wanted and they were demanding all the time, constantly. We invested somewhere between 700k pounds and £1 million, about $1 million in developing blocking features across all 4 platforms, Android, iOS, Windows, and Mac. And honestly, eventually we gave up because it's impossible to actually make it work. You cannot block pornography. You cannot create a porn-free world. Someone can just get a new device. They can find substitutes, which they can then become addicted to. They can find porn on safe sites like social media, like X and Reddit. They can use VPNs. They can use all kind of jailbreaks. And the issue is that basically this whole approach just facilitates an avoidance of responsibility, an avoidance of real commitment, an avoidance of developing the self-mastery skills and the lifestyle to support long-term freedom. Because the thing is if you don't have the commitment, if you don't have the mindset and beliefs, if you don't have the self-mastery skills like impulse control, craving management techniques, etc., to be able to work with urges and cravings in the moment, you'll just find a way to turn it off or get around it or jailbreak it or whatever. Or you'll just do whatever you can to find pornography because fundamentally you are not committed to long-term abstinence and freedom from it. So it's not about the devices, it's about you, it's about your life, your habits, your skills, your mindset, beliefs, style, your connections, your relationship, your real sex life, etc. That's what it's about. When you have all of those things dialed in, you don't need a blocker. Of course, it helps. It introduces a little bit of friction. It gives you an extra 5 seconds, 10 seconds, maybe a couple of minutes to come to your senses and maybe use an urge management technique. But you have to have the urge management techniques. That's the thing. You have to have them, and you have to have those commitments that you can actually return to when you do wake up. So it can be a useful aid. And I certainly don't tell guys do not install blockers, but they're not going to solve your problem. They're just going to be a very short-term plaster, band-aid for the Americans out there on the problem. Next up, we have accountability or monitoring. So these type of services are generally dominated by, Covenant Eyes, which is for Christians. From my perspective, this makes absolutely no sense. Like, you say you believe in God, but you want like a buddy or your wife or partner or whatever to monitor every website that you visit and your browser history. It's like, do you believe in God or not? If you believe in God, then you believe he sees everything. You don't need your mate checking your browser history or whatever. Ultimately, you have to take responsibility and you have to hold yourself accountable. And accountability can be good in the short term. Myself and the Remojo team, we offer hardcore accountability where we just basically push guys for a month really hard, but we hold them accountable to doing the work to get free, not to looking at, did you visit this site or what were you doing there or whatever. We hold them accountable to showing up every day, practicing the urge management techniques, building their commitment, maintaining it, renewing it, practicing resilience, engineering their lifestyle, engineering their behavior, using behavioral science to break these habit loops, etc. So we hold them accountable to doing the work to change. We don't hold them accountable to whether they decided to watch porn yesterday. If you need me to shout at you about watching pornography and sabotaging your life, it's not going to work. You're not ready yet. You're not fully committed. And ultimately, we have to get you holding yourself accountable on a daily basis. That's the only long-term sustainable solution because you have to be willing to be honest. And the last thing is that having a good accountability partner is really difficult because they have to strike a very fine balance, right? A cheerleader cheering you on for like a day without pornography is, one, a bit lame, and two, that's not accountability. That's a buddy-buddy cheerleader. And to be honest, it's a little bit immature. And if you want to really step up and man up and quit porn, you need to be beyond that, right? You want to celebrate wins. You want to celebrate successes and progress. But a day without watching porn is not a big achievement. It's not. So changing your life is, changing your habits are, changing your paradigm is an achievement. And really getting to the point where you can't remember the last time you watched porn, that's an achievement that's worth celebrating. But we want to celebrate, work, doing real things, not just living a normal life. And then on the flip side, sometimes accountability partners can be too harsh and they can basically deter honesty by being too aggressive, threatening to cut you off, divorce you, kick you out the family or the church or the mosque or whatever. And that's not helpful either. You really need a professional coach to hold you accountable and actually strike the balance hold you accountable to the right things, give you negative social consequences that are neither catastrophic nor buddy-buddy cheerleading stuff with no negativity at all. It has to be a middle ground. And that's really hard to get from a friend or some stranger that you meet on the internet. And then lastly, we have therapy. Now, most guys do not use this. Typically, the guys who engage in therapy have real serious problems and have maybe gone into illegal content, illegal areas. But there are issues with this, and it's too cognitive. It's not behavioral enough. You have to really have the behavioral science. You have to break the habits and know how to engineer behaviors, not just talk about something. The other issue is therapy is a female-dominated field, so most of the therapists that you will talk to will have no lived experience of this. They haven't overcome the issue themselves, and so they're not able to actually coach you, and they don't fully understand your experience and what it's really like to be a man in 2025 who's been watching porn for 10 years, 15 years, or whatever. So they can't give you that level of insight into the experience, into the problem, into the solution, solving it from a holistic perspective. Their expertise is typically not specialized enough. And the last thing is that most therapists will tend to validate behavior too much. They're too accepting. They're not judgmental enough. They don't necessarily think that pornography is wrong. They will tell you, oh, there's nothing wrong with watching it. You're not broken. I mean, if you're dysfunctionally going back to pornography 2-3 times a day, you kind of are a little bit broken, right? But you do need to fix that. It's like you have a healthy brain. It's been hijacked. So your brain is not broken, but that behavior is completely dysfunctional and it needs to be fixed. And you need a man to tell you that straight. And so therapists will generally not do that. They will just kind of sit there, reflect, mirror, ask you questions, and just kind of let you figure it out for yourself by talking out loud. And that tends to not help men as much as it does women, because men need to really take action, and they learn much more by doing. So let me actually tell you what the solution really looks like. So if I jump over here to the Remojo program on school, on our About page, we actually outline the system, and I can just use these slides to actually show you what a real solution that's programmatic and that deals with all of these issues, these sticking points, these points of failure that, the various other solutions that guys throw out there, or the other apps or whatever, that don't really know what they're doing, to be honest. I'll show you what a proper programmatic solution looks like. So the first thing is we need to address the willpower issue, right? So we need to actually use systems and we need to use behavioral science. So the first thing that we have to do is help you to take control of your days and use behavioral engineering to make it easier by basically minimizing external triggers, minimizing internal triggers, reducing your motivation to watch pornography, and also then obstructing and blocking, etc., to reduce access. You're not relying on that, but the combination of reducing all of your triggers, external and internal, introducing some blocks, and then also killing your motivation to watch it by making porn unappealing, unrewarding, uninteresting, etc., really changing your paradigm and mindset. That's what we do in the first 2 steps of the Remojo program, and that helps basically make the most of the blocker apps and blocking controls, etc., that are out there without relying on them. And then also absolutely minimize the need for willpower. You want to use as little willpower as possible to quit pornography, and you want to throw your willpower into actually improving your life. And then the next step is, once you've actually minimized the need for willpower or self-mastery or self-control, self-discipline, whatever you want to call it, then you actually need to train in specific techniques, in if-then protocols, basically algorithmic behaviors that you want to install in your mind, so that when those urges do come, or those unavoidable triggers come, or your real libido comes and you want to avoid expressing that real libido by using pornography, you already have new responses, rituals, behaviors, etc., that you can use in the moment and choose to perform in the moment. And so you need to train those things, right? You need to use if-then implementation intentions to actually install the right responses ahead of time, so that when you really do need to use your will, you're able to easily do it because you've already installed the behaviors, and you've already done the reps, you've drilled them, you've done the thing in your mind 10 times, 15 times, 20 times already, so that when the real moment comes, it's easy to do the right thing. because you've done all the reps in your mind's eye through mental rehearsal. Then the fourth step is really around shattering the illusions, delusions, and programming that keep you stuck. So this is where we have to break down your paradigm, your belief system, your mindset, and actually install the correct paradigm or the winning paradigm that's going to help you stay free from porn for good. And so this is where we have to challenge all of the various supporting beliefs and attitudes that are reinforcing your porn habit. And this has to be much more challenging than what you would get in therapy or from just waiting for the insights to come yourself. We need to systematically map out all of the beliefs. And again, this requires specialist knowledge that a therapist or a woman is not going to have, because they don't understand how a man thinks, how a young man thinks, how a man in 2025 thinks, and they don't have the precise understanding of all of the exact beliefs that guys have that continue to perpetuate this pattern. And in adopting the right mindset, you will also find it easier to hold yourself accountable, to be honest, to develop integrity, to develop your own ethics that you actually want to live up to. So you don't need someone monitoring your browser history because you keep yourself on track. And then the last step is you want to revitalize mind, body, and soul, and then make it forever. And this is where the lifestyle design element comes in. So there are a lot of other lifestyle issues that either ensure that your willpower will fail, or that you'll jailbreak a blocker app, or that you won't hold yourself accountable, or that therapy you cannot talk your way to a high quality of life, right? You need to change things. And so that's why the lifestyle design coaching for fulfillment and self-mastery as well come into play. And all of this turns you into the kind of man who actually has real sexual options, healthy sexual fulfillment, and therefore you do not need to repress your sexuality and constantly struggle with it like the nofap guys are, the incels. You know, a lot of them are incels and they're struggling with sexuality because they have no healthy outlets. You need to become the kind of guy who has healthy outlets available, whether that's a high quality relationship, marriage, whatever fits your values and belief system. You need to have sexual options, and you need to ultimately become the kind of guy who has sexual options. And that will only come from becoming a higher quality guy, redefining your identity, and having the lifestyle to match. So the Remojo program does that. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you can see how the Remojo program addresses these issues systematically and why a lot of these other approaches just don't work, right? Because they're split up into little parts, they're not coordinated, they're not programmatic, and they're just totally unrealistic and disconnected from reality, from your experience, etc. The other thing is, I hope this helped you to actually gain some insight and really understand where your unique sticking points are. So if you want more coaching, more insights, more value like this, please do like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be producing videos at least 5 times a week, hopefully. So there'll be much more coming that I hope can get you a long way there for free, or maybe even all the way there. If you're ready to actually work with us and just accelerate the timeline and get free from this and get on with your life as soon as possible, honestly, then you can check out the links below the video to go to school and check out the program. There's also the option for a free call, discovery call, if you want to find out if it's right for you or you're interested in the hardcore accountability. And if you want to work with just me or one of our team for just an hour to see how it is and see if that unlocks something for you, just try out working with us on a very short-term basis for an hour. Then you can also book single sessions. So anyway, hopefully see you in some form or another, either on YouTube or in the program or on a call. Otherwise, have a great day. Stay strong. Stay away from pornography. It's total trash. Bye.